Good afternoon, national readers. Well, is there anything else to talk about other than what happened last night? What a night. Scotland qualifying for the FIFA World Cup for the first time in 27 years, the first time since 1998. I'm sure many of you out there have amazing memories of that moment 27 years ago. And here we are, finally, it's happened again. I'm Steph Braun, one of the political reporters at The National, and I'm here with managing editor Stuart Ward, who is on his very first national podcast.
Thank you, Steph.
What a day to be doing it.
I know.
Stuart,
Yeah.
where were you watching the match last night?
So I was working in the office for most of the day, and then I'd been here quite early, so I thought have to finish the shift up, obviously with a game like that, there's quite a late finish, late front page. So I decided to go home to watch the game with my mum. And yeah, I mean, quite a finale to proceedings.
Absolutely. I mean, let's take it back to Saturday, first of all. Scotland playing Greece away from home. It looked for all the world like they had blown it. They went 3-0 down, and that was a result that we didn't think could afford to happen because presumably Denmark were going to beat Belarus in the other game. And by some gift from the gods, Denmark didn't beat Belarus, and the loss didn't matter. They still had that chance to beat Denmark at Hampden. Yeah. I mean, how did you feel watching on Saturday when all that was playing out?
Well, nervous. I mean, for Saturday, I work in the Sunday national shift, so we were very much thinking, "Oh, what's happening here?" Like in terms of the front page, or what's going to happen. And when that score went through, I think we were all like, "Oh, like." Pretty predictable. And then there was that brief moment of rallying where could this happen? I mean, listen, 3-goal leads have been lost before. Unfortunately, the Scotland women's team, of course, in the World Cup against Argentina lost a 3-goal lead. Mm-hmm. So at least maybe this time it could be on our side, etc. But no. Yep. But so a little bit nervous. But again, yeah, the Belarus result. I mean, I think I wasn't even following the game because I thought, there's no chance.
Yeah.
And then I looked in BBC when it was like 92nd minute, and it was like, oh. They're still tied. They're tied up.
Yeah. Belarus went into lead at one point, which at one stage, for one sort of split few minutes, there was a possibility that Scotland might not have needed to beat Denmark last night. It could have been a draw if Belarus had actually managed to beat Denmark, but they didn't ultimately. I remember logging on to the BBC Sport feed after the final whistle of the Scotland game, and there was about sort of 70,000 people who were watching the BBC Sport feed for that game. So let's talk about last night then. Amazing build up to the game. First of all, the anthem was incredible, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it was really like I think it's one of those nights where Hampden does shine. Even with the silly track around it, I think sometimes we can overcome that occasionally, and that was definitely one of those occasions. I mean, I don't know if any of our staff were at the game or we were all just remote.
Not to my knowledge, to be honest. I knew a few people who were at the game. There was a fair few celebs and politicians kicking around as well. But yeah, I don't know whether any of our team actually were there themselves.
But even you got the sense of the atmosphere just from from the distance, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. The rendition of Flower of Scotland. I noticed recently at Hampden they've adopted the Murrayfield technique of stopping the pipes for the second verse, which really, really gets the spine tingling. So that was a great rendition of the anthem. We've had loads of people from countries all over the world commenting on our on Twitter of that video. So obviously after the rendition of Flower of Scotland, things went pretty well pretty early on, didn't they?
Could not believe it. I just absolutely astounded. I mean, the editor Laura Webster. I mean, I messaged her the second that goal went in because we've been talking about what we can do with the paper, the front page, etc. Which was in Jane Cassidy does a great job with the front page, I thought, but we'll come back to that later. And I just said, I just can't believe what just happened. I just literally how did that go in? How did it get to him? What a moment. I mean, did you scream? I was screaming.
It's up there with one of the best goals I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It's how sort of long he hangs in midair and just the athleticism to get up there and put it in the back of the net. It was an astonishing goal. I think the feeling that came over a lot of Scotland fans at that moment, after that sort of euphoric brief moment, was that, is this too early? We're going to need another goal. It was all Denmark for majority of the first half.
I remember at one point the stats popped up, and at that point it was 17. I think it was 17 chances for Denmark and 1 for Scotland. I think it might be shots on target even, or something ridiculous like that. 17-1, but we just hung on in there.
Yeah, I thought the defending was actually quite impressive. It felt scary, but what I tried to sort of think back after the match last night to sort of any chances that Denmark had that, you know, hit the bar or genuinely nearly went in. I couldn't actually think of many. No. I think there was one from one of the defenders, which sort of glanced a few inches past the right post, which was a bit frightening. But I thought that Scotland defended really well, and that's something that's been a bit absent in the previous bits of the
definitely campaign. It's been a bit roughy, and there was of course correctly displayed goal.
Yes, yeah. So McTominay's strike getting us into a really good position under a lot of pressure from Denmark after that point. Then Denmark were awarded a penalty, which was a bit edgy.
I mean, the national group chat, just for readers, was a little bit dividing the penalty. I mean, I think there was online, offline. I was just thought it should have been a free kick for Scotland before.
Yes, there was that too.
That was my angle. That was my little pitch for how we get ourselves out of, feeling that it was unjust. But
yeah,
I think you were on the side of not a penalty.
I was definitely on the side of not a penalty. I would say there was some emotion attached to my analysis. However, I did think it was outside the box. It was one of those. I was actually mid-match to distract myself from the sort of agony that is watching Scotland sometimes. I was actually trying to look up the sort of rule because Andy Robertson was on the line, which is in the box, but was it Rasmus Højlund? I think he was that who he tackled.
I can't remember who he fouled.
I can't actually remember who he fouled, but it was he was certainly, the Denmark player was certainly outside the box. Yes. So I'm not entirely sure what the actual rule is there, but they looked at it, that they were convinced. So it ultimately doesn't matter in the end. So,
true.
So yeah, we had the penalty go in. Then Lawrence Shanklin scored.
Yes,
that was that next. I'm trying to remember the series of events. That was a more typical type scrappy goal, wasn't it? Just,
I know.
Punt it in and
bang in the box. Let's see what happens. It's scrappy Scotland. Like that's part of our DNA as a nation.
Exactly.
So I think it's appropriate. We had the glamorous strikes but it's good. We've got a nice little scrappy one as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then 4 minutes later, Denmark were back in the game again. Felt like a bit of a easy goal for them. I was a bit worried. But you talk about Scotland's DNA there. One of the things they love doing is just flinging it into the box.
Yes, exactly.
Just get it up there. And that is what they tuned into sort of 85 minutes or so.
Yeah.
And up comes Kieran Tierney with an absolute peach of a goal.
I mean, I think it was interesting too, just before that, the commentators were certainly flagging this up, that obviously that Steve Clarke took quite an aggressive approach in terms of bringing on a couple of players who were we're here to score goals, we're here to win this game. I mean, if any national readers are still watching this podcast out of loyalty to our political stance and hate football, perhaps we can explain it maybe in political terms. I think we could say that Steve Clarke's reputation, maybe more of the kind of John Swinney independence approach, a bit careful, like just keep it calm, keep it contained, get the win over time. Whereas it was a bit more like UDI last night. I think it was a bit more like just every tool we have in our arsenal, let's throw it at Denmark, see what can happen. And in this instance, the UDI definitely paid off. I mean, like we just started to actually take some control. And the red card was maybe a bit soft potentially for Denmark.
Yeah, I think that certainly wasn't a bookie for me, but we'll let that slide.
And then when that ball came in front of him, I even when it hit the net, I couldn't believe it. I mean, your reaction.
If I had to pick a goal from the night, there were 3 absolutely world-class goals. Yeah. We've talked about McTominay, McLean, obviously we'll talk about that in a second, and Tierney. I think Tierney's was my favourite because ultimately that came in the middle of stoppage time. There were only 3 or 4 minutes left. That was the one that sort of got it done for me.
Exactly.
So, and it was just an absolute worldie of a strike. Amazing. And he's had a bit of a difficult time as a player recently, not really getting into the team off that often with Arsenal, coming back to Celtic. injuries, things like that. It was a really nice moment for him. And then icing on the cake, Kenny McLean. of all the people, he seems to shine in these sorts of games, doesn't he? Moment. It had to be. So they were Scotland was sort of trying to see the game out. They were heading for the corner. That sort of play. I don't begrudge them for that. But Kenny McLean sees that open goal and just goes for it.
And what was your reaction when he shot? Like immediate, like just when the second he hit that ball, your reaction was?
I understand why he's gone for it, because the goalkeeper was Kasper Schmeichel was out of its goal, but it's one of those things I think happened in slow motion because you don't really expect it to go in. The fact that it did just shows you that he's got great skill. I mean, that's to finish from it's beyond the halfway line.
Oh, and like the nerves and the pressure and the whole, all the lights on him. Fantastic. I mean, as a St Mirren fan, as a buddy, it was nice to hear. I mean, I think Stephen Thompson's commentary, the whole shoot commentary, I think that's going to go down in Scottish folklore, definitely in football and folklore. And then McLean was also in the same cup-winning side for St Mirren, as was McGinn as well, back in the glory days. So
amazing.
And seeing McGinn obviously chat with an after-match interview. So as a buddy, I'm going to try and claim as a little bit of credit. I'm also from Galloway. Of course, one of a lot of readers about issues with central back. So just to clarify, I wear both hats.
I didn't actually know you were a St Mirren fan.
Yeah,
that is news to me. Wow.
Born in Paisley, but raised in the southwest. So I still I claim St Mirren. I'm halfway between Queen in the south and Stranraer, so I don't really have a football team down south.
Yeah.
So I've kept up with St Mirren. I'm a glory hunter.
Yeah, fair dues. No, amazing goal from Kenny McLean, and the absolute euphoria afterwards. Just Hampden was just absolutely rocking. What a place to be! Yeah. What a time to be alive!
Well, the fireworks. I mean, just across Glasgow last night, almost the second the final whistle, you just heard the fireworks start to go off. Which, I mean, there's no stopping that.
Yeah, I think there was a sense that. I mean, we talked about that Greece game. Scotland were given a second chance. Yes. They did, on their part, blow it on Saturday night. Despite the fact they did have a bit of a spirited comeback, but that aspect didn't go right for them. They were given a gift from the gods by Denmark and Belarus. I think there was a sense that they were given that second chance, and it's like, I think I saw quite a few sort of comments come into BBC Sport, like they were asking. What would you say to the team if you were in the dressing room? They were like, what would you do if you had a second chance at life? And, what would you do with that opportunity? And I think there was a sense of they need to grab this with both hands. I think the players realised that. I think it was a huge amount of emotion attached to it. I heard
absolutely.
Andy Robertson was thinking about Diego Jota, who sadly died a couple of months ago. Yeah, absolutely tragic. And so I think there was this sense that they needed to grab this with both hands, and they played with, I think, I know that things did go against them, but I think what's defined this campaign a lot so far is they have played with quite a bit of fear and trepidation at points, and they didn't seem to panic last night when things went against them, and I felt like there was a sense of clarity about the performance. I don't know if you felt that.
No, I know exactly what you mean. I think, when the players were chatting after the game, a lot of them, a few of the interviews, and certainly Andy Robertson did as well. I think McGinn might have too. They talked about that speech from Steve Clarke before the game they gave them in the hotel, and kind of said, he'd opened up about his own life and the struggles he's faced and how that kind of motivated them. And it feels like this is a Scotland team that does have a real sense of team.
Yep.
And I think in moments like that, when it comes to crunch, I mean, that's when that counts and that's when that matters. And it's the kind of like unknown quantity when you talk about a football match. You can, all the tactics in the world. But especially with national team games where, they're not training, day in, day out for a whole season, trigger moments, like when, they're not training in the same way as you are for a club team. So that you need a little bit more of that little X factor, I think, for the national games. And I think, like I say, that's where you could see that shine during that game. And that's surely why everyone was just, when that goal went in, I think everyone just breathed that sigh of relief and just, the fourth goal, just we can hope now. This is it. Even by Scotland standards, like the second goal, McLean's goal, that's it.
Yeah,
we're happy.
Yeah, absolutely. It was incredible. I think when Kieran Tierney's goal went in, I do confess I had a little bit of water in my eyes. I think it was just it was the emotion of the situation. Like 27 years, like you felt as if you were part of a moment of history, and it really is.
Absolutely.
When do we know when this is going to happen again?
Exactly.
I mean, full disclosure, I probably should have said this earlier before anyone starts scrolling through my social media and I get caught out. I am principally an England fan, born and bred there, but I was with Scotland. I hope you can tell every step of the way last night, and I have been with them throughout the qualifying campaign. I'm so happy for them, and they do deserve it. On that performance last night, but they also got themselves, I think that a lot of people have said, we've got Belarus to thank, we've got Denmark to thank a little bit, but they've also got themselves to thank. They got themselves into that position with drawing with Denmark in the first game, a great performance against Greece at home. So it was an absolutely brilliant game, and I think that everybody can feel as if they were part of a collective moment. I think that the world's could be very sort of insular and individualistic these days. And this was a moment where the whole nation were watching BBC Scotland. It was on BBC Scotland, where it should be, on terrestrial TV, as it used to be called. And everybody was able to watch it. And everybody was in pubs, at home, at Hampden itself, on the street, wherever. They were all sort of unified in this moment of sort of absolute euphoria. I think that's something to treasure.
Absolutely, and it is community, and that's what sport can do, and it definitely did that. And looking ahead to the World Cup, it's so exciting to think of how Scotland will be during that World Cup. I think it'll be fantastic, and it'll be so much fun for us. I mean, then we've got the aftermath of the game as well, of course, which is you see the celebrations, and I think it was interesting as well. I think from our perspective of the front pages. I thought it was interesting seeing the front pages this morning, obviously, of the newspapers. I mean, I love Scotland winning and I want them to win, but I also, part of my mind was, it's going to be a good sales day tomorrow, isn't it? Because when Scotland win, whether it's football or rugby, sales are good. Yeah. When we used to work at the Glasgow Times, it was always like, I kind of support both Rangers and Celtic in Europe because I was like, it's good for sales if they win. Yeah. So absolutely. We're excited for that. And then as the R front, we kind of went for one of the big celebration shots of the team together, and I thought that was really nice. And Jane was highlighting in her front page, Jane Cassidy, that kind of feeling of the wait is over. Like, at last, we're back on the world stage. And for a lot of Scots, it's going to be, I mean, I was just about born. I was born when we were in the World Cup before, but I think it's a whole new experience for so many Scots now to get to watch that World Cup. A whole generation, a new generation of fans are going to get to enjoy this. And there is something, I think, a bit different about the World Cup. And they've obviously qualified for the Euros the past couple of times. That's been absolutely huge. And I know that the performances at the Euros were not something to cherish particularly, but I think there is something really. The World Cup's the one, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It's there's just something special about it, and I think too, just thinking about the Scotland performances too. I mean, this shirt I'm wearing has a bit of a story behind it. So, when the National is quite a famous / infamous front page, when England were playing Italy, in the final, and the front page was Roberto Mancini mocked up as Braveheart. Quite tongue in cheek, I would stress. I guess it's quite a tongue in cheek front page. But with a scrapped version of that front page, we were going to rub Braveheart Bobby's nose for good luck. But we went and said with the Braveheart Mancini, and Mancini adopted that front page quite vociferously and took it on the plane. And in fact, put the trophy on top of the paper on the plane. So the National had at that point touched more European trophies than the English team had. Not to rub it in their hands. Yes, yeah. That is the fact. That's fair. And so this talk was on that we'd actually bought for him to give to him. Unfortunately, difficult to track the man down. Understandably, I think he had bigger priorities. So this has just lived with us ever since. But that's the backstory. But the slightly more serious point I was going to make was that, with tournaments like that, with that kind of tongue-in-cheek front page, we kind of had to make our own entertainment. That kind of, that I know about England, the kind of jokey stuff around that is kind of had to make our own entertainment. But now that we're actually getting to take part in it, we don't have to do that. We can just have our own fun. We can just really think, just focus on how Scotland perform at it, and hopefully we can live up to the hype. I mean, the players will certainly be up for it, but it's a lot of pressure. Yeah, it is a lot of pressure. I think that the players will take a lot from their experience of
of the past 2 Euros, and I'm pleased for players like Andy Robertson that this has happened, because by the time the next World Cup comes around, I think he admitted maybe touch and go with being around 36 if that had been the case. I think they'll take a lot from the Euros experiences, but also automatic qualification. They've avoided the playoffs, which I think will do a huge amount for their confidence. They'll believe that they can beat big teams in big moments, and every World Cup game is huge. I know that you go into groups and you can maybe afford to lose a match, but I don't think that's the mindset anybody has. Everybody, wants to get through, and wants to get through sort of in style. So
I thought it was interesting I was reading some of the comments from kind of Denmark last night to see how they'd kind of reacted to it. And two of the things that stood out for me, well, firstly, they all blamed their manager for not doing well enough against Belarus. That was their feeling. It was not so much the Scotland game, but they were just annoyed at that previous game. They felt like they hadn't kind of set the team out right. And then the other thing that kind of struck me with a lot of the kind of Danes were saying that, talking about Scotland, almost saying they've had some amazing Danish teams in the qualifiers who have done terrible in the World Cup, and vice versa. They've had some rubbish qualifying campaigns and then done fantastic in the tournament itself. And that's what it's like with tournaments. Like it's just you can have the best campaign in the world qualifying, and then it can go to pot. Or anything can happen. So, I mean, obviously, we're all going to be delusional, I think. I mean, I'm going to think, the day's running out, I'm going to think Scotland can win the tournament. Like, there's just,
I think Kevin Bridges tweeted earlier, there is no other team I can see winning this Tour de France. Scotland. Exactly. I mean, like, just, it's I think it's sort of easy to get carried away after a movement like that, isn't it? Incredible. And I think it'll be great to see what it does to the nation next summer. It's actually immediately before the Commonwealth Games, I realised as well. Right. I was hoping the two didn't clash. I thought that wouldn't be that particularly helpful, would it?
Cover.
Obviously. But hopefully, that'll be a great summer of sport. Even though the World Cup obviously isn't here, it's over across the Atlantic in USA, Canada, and Mexico. But hopefully, it'll be that feeling of a summer of sport. We'll get the Football World Cup. We'll be able to enjoy that for as long as Scotland are in it, and then we'll have the Commonwealth Games in Glasgow. So I think that'll be great. So, I mean, how did you feel sort of waking up this morning? Because I haven't been able to think about it.
Oh no, it's exactly. I mean, we're talking about what we're going to do in the podcast, and we're kind of saying, I mean, this is why I'm on it. They don't let me on for the political ones, but they let me on for the sports ones. So yeah, it was only a game in town, isn't it? And obviously there are political angles to this, of course. That there's all kinds of questions around national identity and it's the community aspect of sport and all these things. But even just in a pure, I mean, I love sports, just period. I mean, if I can follow a team, I'll just do it. It's the passion of it, and so like that's just being able to wake up this morning and you see it with some of the other kind of sportsy sites that we have as part of our wider kind of newspaper group. If a team is doing well, then sales go through the roof. I mean, I'm just thinking even some of the titles we have down south, like we have one in Norwich and stuff like that. I mean, Norwich were flying, the paper sales were fantastic. And I think it's just everyone gets that little buzz, like a little extra smile on their face. And that's how it felt this morning. It just felt like I just wanted to open my phone and see what everyone was saying.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't get off my phone last night for ages. I was like, I need to put this down. But it was just a great feeling to come into the office this morning, and it's all anybody's talking about. That's the other thing when I talk about the world sometimes being a bit insular. People watch different things on TV. They watch different things on their phones, different clips, and you don't often get these moments where people can talk about the same thing that they watched last night. We've got it a bit with the celebrity traitors, lots of people watching that. Yeah, it's true. But when it's something like a big football match, you get everybody coming into work the next day and talking about the same thing. All you need to say is, "Did you enjoy last night?" And everyone knows what you're talking about. Yeah. Those moments I think are so rare these days.
Yeah, exactly. It's the water cooler discussions as they're kind of called, and like TV dramas. I mean, Game of Thrones was one where it was seen as the water cooler drama where everyone was discussing it, and you don't really get that in TV so much these days for dramas because they say the way streaming services work and the likes. But now, like Traitors definitely had that impact to an extent, and certainly something like Scotland, everyone can just talk about it. I mean, I'm fascinated to see our letters pages in the paper tomorrow. Like, I trust our readers to still have plenty to say about whatever else is happening today. I'm not even sure. I think there's some boring Prime Minister's question, is it PMQC or something? Or is
Yeah, it was PMQs
Okay, yeah.
today, but the first thing that was mentioned was this. So
And the first
Keir Starmer did congratulate the Scotland team. At least he did that. So. He got it in. But yeah, I think it is, those sorts of moments are special. And it was on, as I say, it was on BBC Scotland. This would not have been the case a year ago. We would have had these qualifiers on subscription TV. Maybe even some pubs wouldn't have been able to put the game on. These kind of games, these games for the national team, where everybody can get round and get round the team and see how the team are doing in these moments, they should be on.
Yes.
To free to view channels.
100% agree, and I think this is part of it as well, where it's a shame where, I mean, we have STV and we have a BBC Scotland channel to some extent, but I always feel it is a shame that there isn't more of that kind of even Scottish cultural sphere, that space for, you know, the chat shows, the discussions of Scottish culture, of Scottish history, of Scottish sport as well to an extent, and certainly in Scottish celebrities, Scottish arts, Scottish culture. We don't really have those spaces on TV in the way that many nations who are properly independent do have those spaces.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, the fact that it took even this long for the Scotland games to be on BBC Scotland is, I mean, it's just damning, isn't it? And it took a lot of campaigning. I mean, he's done a fair few stories over the course.
The people like Gillian Mackay, I think, were very big on it. Gavin Newlands, I remember, was pushing for it a lot. I mean, there's been talk about things like the Six Nations potentially going on to a subscription channel as well, which is another thing. I think, because I think when the Six Nations is on, a lot of people will say, I don't really watch rugby, but I do watch the Six Nations. And it's the same with these qualifying games. I don't really watch football, but I will watch when Scotland are on, especially when something like this is on the line.
Yes.
You know, I'll watch Scotland at the World Cup. These are moments where everybody gets involved. It doesn't matter if they're a devoted fan of the sport. And I think that's what makes these kind of tournaments so special. I mean, some of you, I'm hoping you'll not begrudge us for talking about football for 20 minutes. Say we will go back to politics at some point, but I think if anybody is wondering why is a political reporter and the managing editor talking about football in the middle of a Wednesday on the Nationals podcast, but this is about so much more than football.
Yeah,
it's a nation coming together and enjoying, this special moment, and it's going to happen again next summer.
Yeah,
I just think it's about so much more than just the game.
Totally. I mean, so much of what we kind of want to do as a newspaper as well as in our ethos is like that aspect of bringing people together, and that is what's, again, sport done right, it does that. That's the power of sport when you do it correctly. Is you can use it to help communities, you can use it to like forge bonds, you can use it to like just make friendship, make connections. So I mean, that was great. Like I say, the reaction I think has been great, and it has been, I mean, just the little things that like 10 years from now, I mean, we'll all talk about, famous McFadden goals. I mean, we can all like reference some of those. We're going to be talking about probably 3 of the goals tonight.
Yeah.
For donkeys, and making those new moments. Yeah, I just think that's so special. And warrants a discussion.
Yeah. It really was a night to remember, and we could talk about it all day. Honestly, we could. But unfortunately, we will have to leave it there.
And unfortunately, we still don't have any more sports pages in the paper than normal, so we've still got to think how we're going to fill those news pages with something that's happening today. Yeah, I don't know what we'll do. Maybe we'll have to beg sport to allow us to do some of the vox pops on our pages or something.
Yeah, that would be nice. It was great to see the number of celebrities that got involved, like with watching last night as well. Like Bob McIntyre was there, Andy Murray was tweeting, Kevin Bridges, absolutely everyone, and just thanks to all the fans across the world as well that followed Scotland's victory last night and then congratulated the team. It was great.
Yeah.
But I think we'll leave it there for today, Stuart. Thanks everybody for watching, and I think it's about 200 odd days to the World Cup. I think I speak for everyone when we say, come on, Scotland!